Thanks for listening in. You're tuned to Agriculture Today. Up for a look on our first segment, a topic that will be featured in full at the forthcoming Cattlemen's Day here at Kansas State University. That is set for March the 2nd, and a little later on in the broadcast, we'll be covering that program in full detail. But right here, we want to let you know that K-State Research and Extension just recently put out a new publication on a cattle handling facility concept that is gaining considerable favor with cattle producers. That is the bud box. One of the co-authors of this publication is on the line with us now. He's actually in transit in southern Kansas, traveling between extension duties. Justin Waggoner is a beef systems specialist with K-State Research and Extension. And Justin, there's been more than a little inquiry from producers about this bud box design approach.
That's right. There's been really an increased focus on low-stress cattle handling techniques and really even facilities. More recently, in the last couple of years, it was an area that we at K-State had received a number of questions about. There seemed to be a lot of interest in people learning more about bud boxes and how they might potentially integrate them into their facilities, whether they were building a new facility or working with an existing facility or set of pens that they might have.
Now, we must give credit where credit is due. This was the inspiration of a renowned cattle management specialist.
Yes, the name for a bud box, it really goes back to the late stockmanship expert Bud Williams. Was really the first, I'm going to say, the first to promote this type of facility. We've been putting bud boxes in a number of different facilities for quite a few years now. So I want to say it's not necessarily a new concept by any means, but it's one that we still receive a lot of interest in.
Because we don't have the visual option here, it's hard to do full justice to the concept. But in words, how would you describe the bud box?
So if I were to describe a bud box, what I would really tell someone is it is essentially a dead-end alley in which so cattle are going to come to a dead end in an alley. This alleyway is going to be usually 20 to 25 feet deep, 12 to 14 feet wide, depending on how we're using that facility, whether we're going to be a horseback or predominantly on foot. We've got a gate at the end of this dead-end alley. And then our alleyway that leads either to the chute or to a loadout is placed at the end where the gate would be at, where those cattle have entered, and it is placed perpendicular to that alleyway or facility. And really the thought is, as cattle come down this alleyway, we close the gate behind them. Those cattle reach the other end of the bud box. They turn around, and their natural instinct is to really go around and past the handler. And when they do that, that essentially puts them in a very good position to go down the alleyway, either to the chute or to the loadout.
Like you say, this is playing to the natural behavior of cattle. They do actually pass the mouth of that alleyway, and then they do have the tendency to backtrack, and we're capitalizing on that here.
Yes, there's essentially what I would say is there's three concepts that a bud box really works on that are part of just natural cattle behavior. The first one would be cattle want to go back the direction from which they came when they're pressured. So as they enter the bud box and they turn around, they want to go back where they came from. And then they want to go around and past that handler. And they also want to be with other cattle, and those other cattle oftentimes are back down that alleyway when they turn around. And so we've really got three parts of cattle behavior that are really working for us in this type of layout.
Before we go much further, it's worth bringing up here, Justin, that handler needs to have at least a rudimentary idea of what pressure points, so to say, to put on cattle to make them move appropriately, right?
Yes, with any facility, a facility is essentially just a tool. And I think that applies if this is a 180-degree sweep type facility or a conventional tub type system or even a bud box. You really can't replace having someone with some good cattle handling skills and who is just aware of how to apply pressure properly to cattle and release that pressure when appropriate.
Now, this K-State Research and Extension publication has full illustrations on bud box layouts and how they would connect to an existing facility, or perhaps you're starting from scratch. And these are fairly easily to establish, are they not?
It is. One of the things that's really nice about this publication, which this was a team effort between folks in the Ag Engineering Department and several of my colleagues in the Animal Science Department that reviewed this. But as you look for resources on facilities and in particular a bud box, you'll find several resources that really just describe a bud box and how to put that together. And what we tried to do as our team was to go one step further and really put a bud box in the context of a facility that would have holding pens, that would maybe have a maternity pen, and really just give the reader several examples that might apply to their situation or might give them an idea as to how they might tie this into an existing facility that they have.
Just to give a notion of how extensive this publication is in that regard, you have templates for all sorts of possibilities here. The basic bud box standalone, you can look at how one might be incorporated into a curved alleyway, a double alleyway, angle pens or straight pens. You've tried to cover all contingencies here, Justin.
That's correct, Eric. I mean, it's a very robust publication in that regard. Even with that being said, we presented a lot of different options there. We certainly know that they're not going to fit everyone's situation, but I think they're a really good place to start and gather some ideas, even if a person's particular situation might be a little bit different than what we have shown there.
And one principle that maybe folks don't think of originally, but it sure can be applied here. If one wants to use a bud box for multiple cattle movement purposes, they can assuredly do so with, say, two alleyways, one a loadout and one a working chute alleyway. So this can be utilized fairly flexibly.
Yes, and I think a bud box has several advantages. One of those being that they do lend themselves to a lot of different situations, can fit a variety of footprints. We know that if any facility space typically comes at a premium. It's an area where we've invested quite a bit of supplies and labor, and so, being able to utilize that area for multiple purposes, be it a loadout or even the chute in maybe even a sorting facility, makes a lot of sense.
And quickly, you touched upon it there, the expense. Producers might wonder whether this is going to be affordable, but in the main, when you think of what's gained in terms of better cattle stewardship opportunities and so forth, why, these can pay for themselves, it sounds.
Yeah, any facility on a cattle operation presents a significant capital investment for an operation. However, if we look at what a well-designed facility can really do for us, it's a tool that allows us to do our work quicker, better, and most importantly, safer.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I really try to stress a lot that I think goes along with the investment in a good facility is that we want to create a safe environment for not only ourselves, but potentially our family or anyone who may be helping us or even work for us.
How might an individual get a hold of this relatively new K-State Research and Extension publication? It was released last fall, entitled Designing a Bud Box for Cattle Handling. It can be accessed online, can't it?
Yes, it can, Eric, and that's probably the easiest way for a particular individual to look up that publication. If you simply do an internet search and you enter in K-State publication, bud box, it'll typically be within one or two hits down from a variety of search engines, but it should come up for an individual.
And if you search the K-State Research and Extension website, the bookstore tab, type in Bud Box there, that'll take you right to the publication likewise, ksre.ksu.edu. And we want to remind folks once again, you will be making a presentation during a breakout session at Cattlemen's Day on Bud Box design, and so you'll have some illustrations to show, will you not, Justin?
We will we'll have a few, I'm sure, and really kind of discuss some of the details of how a person might go about implementing that into their facility, and probably a few comments on stockmanship in general as well.
Very well. We will see you here in Manhattan on March the 2nd at the aforementioned Cattlemen's Day, which we'll elaborate on after the break. Appreciate your time right here, Justin. Good travels.
Thanks again, Eric.
That's Justin Waggoner. He is a beef systems specialist, K-State Research and Extension, and one of those who contributed to this new K-State publication, informative indeed on designing a bud box for cattle handling. Check it out at the K-State Research and Extension website. You can also ask about it through your local extension office. And we will return to dig deeper into the Cattlemen's Day agenda with our next guest in a moment here on Agriculture Today.
What is radon? Home exposure to radon gas is the leading cause of lung cancer death in the United States for non-smokers. In Kansas, 1 in 4 homes will test at or above the EPA action level. The Surgeon General recommends all homes be tested and fixed if necessary. Visit kansasradonprogram.org for more information. Test, fix, save a life. This message brought to you by the Kansas Radon Program, the Kansas Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
Agriculture Today returns now here on the K-State Radio Network. Beef cattle producers, it is on the calendar, and it's just a little over a couple of weeks away. The annual Cattlemen's Day at Kansas State University. This will be the 105th edition of this event. Joining us now is beef cattle specialist with K-State Research and Extension, Dale Blasi, who's been involved in the Cattlemen's Day planning and preparation for darn near 30 years now. Dale, this event never loses its luster. It is very much an important get-together.
Absolutely, Eric. We have a critical core of really great people that, aside from our research and the involvement with the students and the interaction of our department with the industry, we always try to bring a good program that's relevant for our producers here in the state.
And it's always scheduled for the first Friday in March. In this case, that would be March the 2nd at Weber Hall and Arena on the K-State campus. So right to the program, and to lead it off, you have brought in an individual at the cutting edge of trade issues for the beef industry and agriculture in general.
Absolutely. Certainly a Kansas native, Eric. Gregg Dowd really has earned his spurs working through with NCBA and more recently being with the Commodity Markets Council. He is presently up for consideration to be the chief agricultural negotiator, and he's going to be talking about trade issues in the beef industry. So we're tickled to have him on the program. And following that, one of our stalwart economists, Dr. Glenn Tonser, is going to be on the program. And Glenn always delivers some good cutting-edge materials that provide good food for thought for our producers to consider.
Glenn, with respect to the markets and where the economics of the cattle industry may be headed. So that pair of presentations in the morning really set the tone for what is a fine day. And in the afternoon, these breakout sessions are designed for producers to pick and choose from, and they do tackle a number of interesting production items.
Absolutely. I mean, we got everything from feeding cull cows for profit. Dr. Terry Hauser is going to address that issue. Our extension crew in Animal Sciences and Ag Econ just put together an excellent brochure on bud box, and Dr. Justin Waggoner from Garden City is going to be on the program for that. Dr. Odie and Dr. Carol Fike are going to talk about work skills development using internships. Our department has found that internships provide a really win-win deal for the operation and for students. Dr. Sandy Johnson is going to talk about split-time AI. Dr. Casey Olson is going to be talking about late-season burning. He's been doing some very interesting work recently, looking at late-season burning for controlling sericea. Dr. Bob Weber is going to be talking in the afternoon at the new purebred beef unit feed facility located out there just directly south of the Beef Cattle Research Center. He's going to be showing folks our new facility out there. And Dr. A.J. Tarpoff, our extension beef veterinarian, is going to be using as a teaching method postmortem examination to enhance herd health management. And also our colleagues over in the Kansas Department of Agriculture are going to talk about weathering the storm, business continuity for livestock operations. They've been doing a lot of good work, Eric, looking at developing their secure beef supply plans, biosecurity, and also the volunteer corps, which is something that a lot of folks ought to be thinking about in the event that we experience something that may be catastrophic to our industry.
So whomever you might be in the beef cattle industry or in allied industries, there's something here for you. It's that varied, that diversified. That's a fine lineup. And again, producers can pick and choose from those breakout sessions, whichever they want to attend. So it's basically self-designed. You also have, and we don't want to overlook this, toward the tail end of Cattlemen's Day, the annual Legacy Bull Sale.
That's right. It's slated to begin at 3:30 in the afternoon at the Stanley Stout Center. I think as in years past, I think we have a fine offering of young bulls and cows for sale. It just kind of wraps up the day.
And to note, students conduct that sale as part of their curriculum.
That's right. And that's one thing that's very unique to our department and our college and our university is that our students are boots on the ground, learning the ins and outs of developing and designing and implementing a complete commercial bull sale.
And Dale, there's one more feature of Cattlemen's Day we would be remiss if we didn't bring it up, and that is that trade show that's right there in the arena.
That's right. You know, what an opportunity for folks to see everything from numerous vendors spanning several areas that may impact their production. And so, you know, we've amassed probably 70 to 75 different commercial booths. So an opportunity to walk through the booths. There's a lot of great educational posters that our students put up. Again, an opportunity to come away with a lot of good information for the one day they're spent in Manhattan.
And it is definitely, producers, a day well spent at Cattlemen's Day, March the 2nd. Registrations are being taken now, and there is a website that folks can go to have a look at the program in full if they'd like and to follow up with registration.
That's right. Go to ksubeef.org. That's ksubeef.org. Registration now. It'll be open online for the next couple weeks. $20 a person, $30 at the door.
So take advantage of that pre-registration break on the fee, and that includes, of course, the exceptional beef lunch during Cattlemen's Day. Again, go to ksubeef.org. And Dale, congratulations on another fine program that's been assembled here, and looking forward to seeing you and everybody else in the Animal Sciences and Industry Department at Cattlemen's Day soon.
Thank you, Eric.
Dale Blasi with us. He's a beef cattle specialist, K-State Research and Extension, as you know. Again, the particulars, the 105th Cattlemen's Day at Kansas State University. Starting in the morning of Friday, March the 2nd, continuing throughout the day, just loaded up with all of the information, exhibits, and other things to see and do, as Dale mentioned. Go to ksubeef.org for a look at the brochure, the full lineup, and registration details. To round out this segment, we're going to tell you about two more events that the Animal Sciences and Industry Department will be rolling out here very soon, and these are specifically for youth with an interest in sheep or beef production. The annual Junior Sheep and Beef Producer Days, these are separate events taking place in March, and we invited by now Lexie Hayes. She's the Youth Livestock Coordinator with the Animal Sciences and Industry Department. And for those young people, these are big doings, aren't they, Lexie?
They are. They're great activities that we have every year for the youth to learn more about their projects.
These will be taking place March the 17th in the case of the Junior Sheep Producer Day, March the 24th for the Junior Beef Producer Day. Both are at the Weber Hall and Arena here on the campus. What's the aim of these, basically?
These are one-day educational programs for youth and their families as well to come and learn about a specific species of their choice. We actually do 2 species a year, so this year, since we're in an even year, we are covering sheep and beef. And so it's a chance for them to come and learn about production and management, a about those projects.
And traditionally, the turnout for these is tremendous, isn't it?
Yes, it has been excellent. It's great to have so many families on campus on a Saturday. Get to share a little bit of our purple with them and have a fun day where hopefully everyone learns something. I know I learned something as well, getting to interact with those families and a fun atmosphere.
The programs are somewhat similar, are they not?
Correct. The relative agenda is similar. We cover the same types of topics throughout the day, but they are specific to that one day. So they get a whole day of sheep and a whole day of beef. For both, we'll cover selection, nutrition, do some meat science activities, also cover health, and then we'll do a little bit on showmanship as well. And this year we'll also be having an optional class for Youth for the Quality Care of Animals, which is a youth quality assurance curriculum.
And that is a certification class if
yes,
youth are interested in that as a matter.
Absolutely.
So it's a full day, and it's hands-on, is it not?
It is. It is hands-on, and we have a variety of speakers coming. So we have some people from K-State that are faculty members. We'll have some guest speakers as well, some graduate students that have a particular expertise or experience. And so we try to bring in different aspects and different views to help share about these different topics.
And you would like pre-registrations by certain days here in the case of each of these two events. What are the particulars there, Lexie?
For Junior Sheep Day, the deadline is February 23rd, so it's coming up pretty quickly. And for Junior Beef Day, it is March 2nd. We do accept late registrations, but we can't guarantee a T-shirt in the size you would like if you register late. Those numbers are based on those early registration deadlines.
And the registration fee for both is standard $15 per person?
Yes, it is $15 if you pre-register or $20 at the door.
And the pathway to registration, it's as easy as going online, you say?
Yes, you can go online to register. That'd be the easiest way. We also have flyers posted on our website. If you prefer to print them off and mail them in, that's fine too. We'll take them any way that's most convenient to send them. And
that web address is youth livestock, all one word, .ksu.edu. youthlivestock.ksu.edu. We appreciate the time, Lexie.
Thank you, Eric. We look forward to seeing all the Kansas families here in March.
That from Lexie Hayes, Youth Livestock Coordinator, Animal Sciences and Industry Department here at Kansas State University. Agriculture Today is back after these moments away here on the K-State Radio Network. For 25 years, K-State Research and Extension's Kansas Agricultural Mediation Services has been providing a no-cost, confidential place to call in and visit with an agricultural lawyer. Our experts are available to help you producers handle legal and financial issues. Explore your options and generate solutions. Call us at 800-321-3276 or visit us online. Kansas Agricultural Mediation Services. We're back now on Agriculture Today and around to our weekly segment on horticultural matters. We've invited by, once again, Riley County Extension Horticultural Agent Gregg Eyestone to suggest a project that those of you with fruit trees around your home might consider now, and that is pruning those trees for improved productivity. And again, we haven't gotten completely rid of winter, Gregg, so some of our homeowners might wonder if we're a bit early to pull the trigger on this, but you say this is a great time to accomplish this pruning.
Yeah, it's really good to do it while it's still dormant, of course, so that you can really see the structure that you're working with. And, you know, our days may be limited with cold weather, and so if we hit a weekend that's nice, maybe this weekend, you can get out and do some pruning to really help our fruit crops.
And explain what we're gaining by pruning fruit trees.
Trees maybe grow bigger, faster than they can really handle. And so by pruning, we can kind of manage that, and that creates more food energy going into flower buds and fruit production. And so you eliminate some of that extra growth that's not really necessary for our good fruit production. And so it depends on which fruit crop you have, on how much you're going to prune. Let's take an apple tree. Many people may have an apple tree in their orchard. Typically, you know, a rule of thumb is about a third of that tissue we want to remove. That way we're getting more sunlight actually into the middle of the tree. It kind of bounces around. You get overall more light energy going into that plant. And also we get good air circulation through the plant. Many of our fruit crops have some disease pressures, and so if we get airflow through that, that's going to reduce that situation.
Specific to apples, if one does not prune, they can become what are called biennial bearers.
Correct.
And that means
you get a lot of flower buds produced, and then that takes a lot of energy out of that plant. And so the following year, there's not food energy for flower buds, and you don't get as much fruit. So if we do this annual pruning, that kind of moderates that situation, and you'll get more likely a crop each year. Weather conditions play a big factor on how well these crops produce during the season, and so we're managing it to an ideal situation, and of course weather conditions dictate a lot of what happens in our fruit crops.
Gregg, we want to visit about general recommendations on pruning further, but if you look at other fruit tree types, you say that peaches are among those that require more pruning than other fruit trees.
That's right. They produce their flower buds and good growth on last year's growth, and so therefore if you're not pruning, you're not getting a lot of growth in that, because pruning is it's kind of a catch-22. The more you prune, the more growth comes back, and so a moderation of pruning each year really benefits you and the crop itself. And on peaches, we may want to take out about half of that tissue each year so you have new growth for the next year to produce those flower buds on.
Conversely, there are fruit bearers that require only a light pruning on occasion.
Yeah, so the rest of the crops, let's say pears in particular, you do a little pruning on that, and that really stimulates growth. So we kind of do moderate, maybe 10% if you kind of want a rule of thumb on that. Cherry trees, pretty much you're removing damaged branches, overlapping branches. So again, that may be 10, 15% just to get more sunlight to the plant. And plums, and if you have plums or apricots, those may be more moderate. Again, more structural improvements, and if you have any broken, damaged stems, that would be what you're removing at that time.
As far as basic guidelines, though, it's about angles of branches by and large.
Yeah, we would need sturdy branches to support the weight of that fruit crop. So I like to use the analogy of you're driving a car properly at 10 and 2 with your hands on the steering wheel. We need our branches kind of coming off from the main trunk at that angle, or maybe even a little wider, so that we have good structure for that branch to hold that weight of the fruit.
And get rid of all the sucker growth that might be out there.
Yeah, again, the more you prune, the more growth comes, and so if you've done a lot of pruning, you may get suckers or branches that kind of go straight up through the tree, and that's providing shade and reducing the airflow. So generally, we remove most of those. Now, if you've had a broken branch or something like that, that branch, that sucker will turn into a fruiting branch and can be a replacement structure. But if you don't need that, then it's probably best to remove those to get better air circulation.
And along with that, with the consideration on structure, if you have a couple of branches that are growing against each other and perhaps rubbing each other, that's pretty obviously something that would be due for pruning.
Yeah, again, spacing is important, so we want to make sure that they're spaced out, got airflow, able to capture that sunlight. So, yeah, branches on top of each other, you probably want to make a selection on keeping one or the other, and things crossing across. You may have a branch from the south side going all the way up through the north side, so those are probably things that you need to look at. And that's what's nice about doing it at this time of the year. There's no leaves. You can kind of walk around that tree and do some pruning, and it's usually not a one-sided operation. You do need to walk around to the other side of the tree and take a look and make sure that's the proper branch to take off. The thing I really need to encourage is that you do some annual pruning. Don't just forget about it. Don't feel guilty and let it go, because you'll have more problems down the road. So it is important that you do some pruning each year. You're probably not going to do anything really terrible to the tree, and you have next year to come back and reevaluate. So don't be afraid to do some pruning, and if you can't do it, get somebody to help you or do it for you, so that it's really in the best interest of your fruit crop to have some annual pruning.
It is important for our more mature fruit trees. A quick word here about a younger fruit tree. Maybe it was planted this past year. This is an opportunity to shape that tree and get it going in the right direction, training the tree, if you will.
Yeah, don't put it off. Don't worry about it, giving it 3 or 5 years and you'll come back and take a look at it. You really want to get those main structural branches going as soon as possible. You're going to get fruit a little earlier on the younger trees nowadays, and so you really want to set it up to be successful. And we do have a publication on that, fruit tree pruning, and seek out your local extension office for a copy of that publication.
And as a final thought, practicing appropriate pruning technique, making clean cuts at the right spot.
Yeah, you want to have the right tools, which is a little hand pruner and usually a small saw. Some people use loppers. Those may not be the best tools, but if you get you a hand pruner and a small saw, that will probably get you pretty far down the road on doing proper pruning with the right equipment.
As Gregg says, check out the information available through your local extension office on pruning fruit trees. There's also an article in the latest newsletter out of K-State Horticulture on this very topic. Check that out at K-State Extension Horticulture. Very easy to find. Gregg, thanks for coming over.
My pleasure, Eric.
Along with us, Gregg Eyestone. He's the Riley County Extension Horticultural Agent on pruning fruit trees at this very time of the season. That is this week's K-State Horticulture segment and our time for this Thursday edition. Thanks for tuning in. Eric Atkinson here for Agriculture Today over the K-State Radio Network.